open the page.
I don't want to hear you say that.
Put that umbrella around while I take it off you.
Warum?
John Bayley's at Grange Middle School in Harrow. With the new performance management procedures bedding in, he's here to help develop their classroom observation and feedback skills. He's working with Deputy Head Barbara Lee.
Okay, today we're starting our new topic of reproduction.
Barbara's line managing Dominique Cook, an overseas trained teacher who's new to the
Our
school.
learning objective is to be able to identify the male and female reproductive organs. So that means we need to be able to know their names, where they
Dominique's
are in the body,
targets this year include a prompt start to lessons.
Okay, for the first activity today, I want you
A second target's to make clear the learning intentions.
Like this. It's the stages of the human life cycle. Starts with the egg being fertilised. Then it goes down to death. So what's the first stage?
It's a mixed ability Year 7 science lesson on reproduction.
Ibrahim. Oh, even before baby. Ali. Fantastic.
On that starter task, which rattled along, they were doing the life cycle.
Toddler there, adolescent.
What did you think of that?
Move up one, I see. Well, a few of them were having problems filling all of the boxes. And there was just one thing that they were unsure of, just in terms of the sort of different bits that fitted in.
Yeah, but this old age.
Old age.
I don't know the right name for it. I think it's...
You don't know what the right name for old age is?
The task is pretty clear.
Yes, it was very clear.
Nonetheless, at an early stage of the lesson, they could do with a bit more support with the language, and they could do with a bit more of an opportunity to talk.
Yeah. I wondered whether or not it might have been possible to have some group discussion perhaps on there.
I'm going to give you a piece of scrap paper. Now, I don't want to hear you calling out. This is something you need to do by yourself silently. I want you to write down any words that you know for any parts of the anatomy of the body. So they may be words that should not be said out loud in the classroom.
Writing down, I don't know what you call it, common language or street language about sexual terms is quite a good way of popping the tension in a room, because the children want to giggle and all that. So that's fair enough.
I don't want to hear you say it out loud, but you can write it down. Some of these may be cheeky words that you don't want to say out loud.
When I went round, I saw quite a few children who were actually just writing down scientific words.
Yes.
And that's all they actually had on their list. They were a bit uncomfortable writing those words down. And I wondered whether or not there was an opportunity then to actually say these words are scientific and these are allowed in this classroom.
Some words that we've put down, they're not exactly scientific terms. So now that we've got them down, we've got them out of our system, some of the sort of cheekier words. I don't want you to be using these words in class anymore.
She collected them in, and there were several ways she could have gone. What she said was, I want the scientific term. You know, now you've used those, it was almost to say, now you've got it off your chest. I wondered if she was going to do an exercise like put some of them up on the board and ask them which were scientific and which were street.
From the vagina, the sperms...
Instead, the pupils move straight on to a new activity.
Then up the fallopian tubes, oviducts. Here they meet the ripe egg, which has been released from one of the ovaries. If no egg is present, the sperm will die after a few days.
Okay, fantastic. Now, if we have a look at the next page, you'll see some pictures here, some diagrams.
There's lots of language issues in that classroom. Your words like fallopian tube, you don't... it's not everyday speech. And so there are opportunities to have those words sounded out and all that weren't really there. They weren't there in the groups either.
So what do you need for reproduction to occur? What do you need? So you need two parents, is that right? Okay, excellent. So if we have a look up...
A third target for Dominique is to bring in differentiation so that all children are appropriately challenged.
Here it says that the female fish lays the eggs first into a nest, and then the male fish comes along and fertilises them with the sperm.
Wrong way around.
That's right, you've got it the wrong way around.
She'd obviously got a very warm relationship with the class. They obviously respond very well to her. But the ones who could do it got on and did it. And the ones that didn't were unable to because of, I think it was essentially language that prevented them from completing the task.
It's very good. Okay, we've only got about 5 more minutes to go. So you need to use this time wisely. Shh. Nice and quiet. Zara?
I would have liked to see a plenary. Throughout the lesson, I was unsure where we were going and what the end result looked like.
You need to use this time wisely to get your work done.
I wondered if the idea of interim plenary activities... I must say, I always feel very comfortable in the classroom when someone says, you know, Ahmed's just done a great answer, and what he's said is, why was that a good answer, and how did he get it? And that stuff, it not only breaks up what's going on in the room, but it'll create ahas around the place.
Yeah.
It'll motivate the child that you're working with, and it gets things breezing.
Some of the pupils complete the worksheet before the end of the lesson, but most struggle.
At the end of the session, there were still children who didn't know what reproduction meant. There were still children who didn't understand the word fertilisation.
That lesson would have gone from satisfactory to good
if there was actually more differentiation, it would have helped with the pace. I mean, I said here, I've worked so it was challenging for some, and I wondered whether or not it was appropriately challenging for all of them. So instead of function, what would you use?
There were children who needed more clues and cues. Everybody in the room was a bit uncertain about the meaning of the vocabulary.
Yeah, I kept waiting for vocabulary to come up on the whiteboard.
Yes. What would you like to come out of the feedback?
To identify possibly some easy wins. Things that, you know, she can actually sort of take away from the session, from the feedback session, and put straight into class next session, which would actually, you know, tomorrow. The easy wins are possibly things like access to more vocabulary, definitely, and ongoing plenaries to check out and jivvy the children along.
Barbara's challenge is to help Dominique understand why the pupils were struggling. And John's here to observe her management style.
Differentiation,
Is there anything that you know, on reflection, you would have changed?
My instructions aren't always the best.
Okay.
Because the sheet that I gave them, they all filled it in correctly. But I did wonder at first, I just saw a few blank faces and thought, OK, I didn't explain that very well.
OK. What I noticed when I walked around, there was a little bit of confusion, slightly, and some of them started to get a bit fidgety. They were unsure what to do.
Yeah.
How would you change that? You know, if you said, well, you sort of felt that yourself.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you feel something? Did you notice that?
I did.
OK.
But I don't know how I would
You're not
change
sure.
it yet. Yeah.
You're not sure. I mean, was there an opportunity perhaps to use maybe the whiteboard?
Yeah, that would probably...
Yeah? Could you see how you might change that onto a whiteboard? Yeah? What might that look like if you...
well, at the very least, I would have scanned that in and put that on the whiteboard as well and gone through a few stages.
So it's Steph, yeah.
John's interested to see how effectively Barbara discusses Dominique's performance management targets.
OK, Dominique, in relation to the targets that were set as a school, I mean, how do you think you've done?
I think I did well with the prompt start.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you.
And the learning objective. what was the other one?
Effective differentiation.
Differentiation. I find it difficult sometimes to, I don't know, to think, is this too difficult? Is this too easy for the different students who need the differentiation?
Barbara's patience in allowing Dominique to complete her thoughts is also closely observed by John.
And trying to help them engage better with the lesson and better with the learning.
Yeah.
But that's an area that I still need to work on.
OK. When you plan, when you look at your planning, do you have certain children in mind?
Yes.
OK, so does that help?
It does.
Yeah. Do you have children from sort of the whole spectrum of abilities within your class when you look at your planning?
Yes, I mainly, with the differentiation, I mainly focus on those students who I know need more help accessing the curriculum.
OK. What I've done is I've just jotted down a few notes of things that I consider to be easy wins.
Barbara goes on to suggest ideas such as mini plenaries and word banks to help Dominique improve her explanatory skills and differentiation in lessons.
I thought that your questioning technique was terrific. Tell me more, what else? Tell me more, what else? And then not jumping in, because people start, their imagination gets released. And it felt to me like the tone of the conversation, it went through, it would get much more intense, a sort of combination of relaxed and intense. And in fact, it was in response to you asking questions and then just waiting to get the response.
You can't just go in there and start sort of making judgments and wagging your finger and saying you should have, why didn't I see this? And so whatever messages you've got to deliver need to be delivered in a way that someone will take them. And so I might have had to really dig deep if I'd met with a barrier to that.
At first, when you asked the question about differentiation,
yeah,
I was thinking to myself, I wonder if she's got a really strong idea of what differentiation is. Now, under pressure of your... No, not under pressure. Once you and she got talking about it, it became clear that she did, and she'd given it a lot of thought. But it was also clear that she was developing the idea as she was talking to you. So I think that was the case.
I kept waiting because my belief was that the answers were with her, and where she had these pockets of knowledge and she'd had them in different categories and they'd almost been just that pigeonholed. Well, that goes there and that goes there and that goes there. And that we were talking about something that she hadn't, so it was a pigeonhole with a label, but it didn't have anything in it. And it was trying to get her to make the connection between what she already had and ideas she already had and where this fits in here as well.
Yes.